No. No, we have one more little paragraph because we had discussed matzah. That matzah has no taste, and matzah represents the level of Yetzias Mitzrayim that is not internalized by us. It's imposed upon us, but not internalized by us yet. All right, and that we're going to see is shaykh to 3. Haven't seen that yet. That's shaykh to 3. Right? And we discussed the difference between wine and matzah. Matzah has no taste. Just the last 4 lines of Gimel. Masha'ein kein yayin. That's not the case of yayin. Was hatatam. It has a taste. A geshmak. Get pleasure from wine. People have wine tasting parties. Because das rufta roish shira bayim. Adam HaSheiset. To such an extent that a person who drinks wine, so he sings. Ein shira ele bayayin. That you have to sing with wine. Ein amim shira ele bayayin. As I'll say, relative to the Beis HaMikdash. So therefore, wine relates to the remembrance of Geula and Chedus, also in such a way that Seif, all things being equal, when all is said and done, it's brought about in actuality by Jews. In other words, it's been internalized. Yayin represents the internalization of the whole process. Matzah is the imposition from above. Yayin is the internalization below. That's the difference between yayin and matzah. Now I'll see how that plays out. Why is that 3? Why is that 4? Azay, mitzad zer avedu mitzias, they, the Yidden, in terms of their aveda and their existence, Zainen Nigel Gevon, they are redeemed from the Merafim Mitzrayim. Matzah represents that level of Geula where we've been taken out, but we're not what the Rebbe just described as Nigel Gevon. We're not redeemed, meaning that you can take the Jew out of Egypt, but you can't take the Egypt out of the Jew. Okay, so what's matzah? Matzah is taking the Yid out of Egypt. What's yayin? Getting Egypt out of the Yid. The internalization of that process, so that now the Yid is, in the Rebbe's language, nigul gevan. The Yid is actually someone who's free. What was matzah? Was the last thing we saw about matzah. We had to run away. We had to flee. Why do we have to flee? We were still very shaykh to Mitzrayim. We had to run away from it. Dalet. So now we'll understand the difference in the numbers. Al pi ze vet men verstehen. Based on this, a person can understand dem tam, the reason, a chiluk for the difference, zwischen dem mispar, between the number of matzahs, which is gimel, and mispar kaises, and the number of the cups of wine, which is dalet. You're my stalwart, the last one holding out against eating him because of this.
It does start again.
I'm going to bring a subject. I'm so tired this morning, I can't see. I fell asleep on the bus. I'm going to bring a sandwich. I'll just have my own little sandwich. I'll have, this big, one of those foot-long things. Eat it and the crumbs will be all over the place. And I'll be teaching Chassidus. This is good. The sandwich or the mimer? Okay, so we have to understand why it is. So matzah represents geula from above. Yayin represents the internalization of geula below. That's what we're holding. So why is this 3 and this is 4? Okay? So beginning of voice Dalet. In the Dalet Lashenis Shel Geula, regarding the 4 Lashenis of Geula, is da achiluk, and we talked about this yesterday, is da achiluk zwischen the erster 3 Lashenis. There's a difference, achiluk, zwischen. What's zwischen? We've had this the 3rd or 4th time. Between, we've had. Right? The erster 3 Lashenis, the first 3 languages of Geula, und dem viert, and the 4th language of Geula. The erste drei Lashonis, the first three languages of Geula, and then I was going to quote them. These are, of course, at the beginning of Ve'eva. I'm going to take you out. This is before we've left, right? This is before the Makos. I'm going to take you out from under the burdens of Mitzrayim. And I will save you from their service. And I'm going to redeem you with an outstretched arm and great wonders, great judgments. Zainen Inyan. So those three psukim, what are they about? Zainen Inyane Geula Velcha Zainen Gevarn Bal Bayitzis Mitzrayim. These are levels of Geula, Velcha Zayin, which are Gevarn Bal, which are already in existence by Yitzis Mitzrayim. They've happened already by Yitzis Mitzrayim. I mean, what happened in Yitzis Mitzrayim? We were taken out, we were redeemed, that's all happened. There's one level that hasn't happened yet, which the Rebbe is going to mention. And they all come from above. They're all happening because Kadosh Baruch Hu is doing this to us. But the fourth idea that's mentioned in the Arba Lashonis of Geula, that I'm taking you to me as a people, even though it also says I took, so then it's coming milamaila. It's also Kadosh Baruch Hu doing it. Is as ober upgehengig, uphangig, not upgehengig, uphangig. What's uphangig? What do you think? Forget the up. Hangig. Hangig. You like an English word?
Dependent.
Dependent. Effect. Hangs. Dependent. Uphangig. Hangs. Hangs on. It's dependent. Right? It's ever uphangig from Eden. This is dependent on the Jews. The other three levels come from above completely, and we are simply passive. The fourth level, even though it's also Kadosh Baruch Hu doing it, it still says v'lekachti, I took you, but we have to be fit to be an Am. It's also dependent on us. Zay darfen, they must werden be roi zu sein, fit to be lila Am, to me as a people. Meaning we had to do things to change ourselves, to bring ourselves to a point where we were fit to be called the Am of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's why only by Matan Torah does the Eibishter say, I want you to be a good Kodesh, I want you to be Mamlachas Kohanim. That's when the Eibishter invites us into this incredible relationship with him. Und das hat sich erst aufgetan, befeuil, and this had first aufgetan, happened, befeuil in actuality, b'shleimus in a complete way by Matan Torah. So there's three languages that are shaykh to Mitzrayim, and there's a fourth language shaykh to Matan Torah. Now, okay, that's very, very nice. We also have to understand the idea of 3 and 4. We're not going to simply say it's happenstance that there happen to be 3. Und der Riber is matzah mispar gimel. So simple pshat, so therefore matzah shaykh to gimel, because matzah shaykh the first 3 levels of Geula. Keneged the erster drei l'sheni shel Geula, that correspond to the first 3 languages of Geula, like we saw yesterday. What's matzah? Matzah hat nit kein tam, has no taste. Matzah is that part of Geula that has not been internalized and is not part of my conscious reality. It's been imposed upon me. I'm taken out of Mitzrayim, but I myself am not, the language we saw this morning, Nigul Gavar. I'm not yet redeemed. I've been taken out, but the Mitzrayim hasn't been taken out of me yet. Oh, what's Yayin? Yayin represents that 4th level. Where what? Had the geschmack in them, right? We have a taste of it. There's a tam, there's pleasure. It's internalized. It's part of me. That's the 4th level of Geula. And that's Shaykh Tafkid of Matan Torah. And that's Shaykh Tafkid of the 4th language of Geula. Okay, so why Gimel and Dalet? So first, Gimel and Dalet meets the Dalet L'Shenis, but obviously we have to understand it on a deeper level. Und der Riber is Matzah b'mispar Gimel, therefore Matzah is 3. Keneged the erster drei L'Shenis shel Geula, the corresponding to the first 3 languages of Geula. Val in Matzah is Mudgash, because in Matzah it's Mudgash, which is a Hebrew word, right? It's emphasized. Die Geula, wie sie kommt mitzad dem Eibishten. The Geula is coming from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu is taking us out of Mitzrayim. We are passive. Always, we talked about yesterday. All we have to do is say, okay, I'm in. Don't do anything else. And 80% of the Yidden couldn't even do that, right? But 20% of the Yidden said, okay, I'm in. Well, if Moshe says, okay, we'll go along with it, we'll see what's going to happen. That was basically all they had to do. All right? And everything happened, Baruch Hashem. Mashain came the cases yayin. Of course, that's all, again, as we said yesterday, that's all Shitas Rashi, right? That the whole Indian of Mitzrayim is we weren't fit. The Ramban, so the sheet of the Ramban is that no, we did merit it. Okay, but this is all based on the sheet of Rashi. The Rebbe doesn't say that, right? But those two major understandings of the whole story of Yetzias Mitzrayim. In Pshat and Chumash, Rashi and Ramban. Right? But Chazal, clearly there's more Chazals on the tzad of not being fit. Right? Also the simple Pshat and Haggadah. Right? That we were naked for mitzvahs, had no merit. Right? Mashain came the cases yayin. What's yayin about? Vivalt zei seine meramez uf der geula. They're hinting at the level of geula. Wie sie hat sich aufgetan durch. That this is brought about. Tan is to do. Durch, through. Un in, and in yidden. Meaning it's been internalized. Zainen Zeba Mispar Dalit, so they're the fourth level. Why? Because that's the fourth language of Gula. Kel Eich Dem Ferden Lashon, and this includes also the fourth language. Velakach Teschem Lila. Okay, so now obviously there's a question that's sort of sitting there waiting to be asked. Right? We'll ask it later once we understand things more fully. But there's a question that's waiting to be asked. According to this, when should I drink 4 cups of wine? Based on what we just said. When does the fourth? Why am I drinking 4 cups of wine on Pesach? Pesach is the first 3 levels. Shavuos is the 4th level. So why am I drinking 4 cups on Pesach? I should drink 4 cups on Shavuos. I can't stay awake at night and drink 4 cups. Okay, we have the answer. That's it, right? So it's not kind of an interesting question, right? And there's even a more balabatisha question, just a simple question. So then Beseder, so eat 3 matzahs and have a 4th thing, 1 cup of wine, which is the 4th thing that you're doing, right? Why dafka 4 cups of wine? There's still what to understand. But the basic idea we have, and that idea, that's going to stay with us. That idea is not going anywhere. Matzah is the first 3 levels. Yayin's the 4th. Now, why dafka 3 and 4? Why Gimel and Daled? We'll see. The Rebbe's going to explain both of those right now. But I'm sorry. One short little paragraph. Umi hai taima. This is also going to come up as the Rebbe's going to explain this in an absolutely wondrous way. Umi hai taima is nar. For this reason, it's only achilas matzah min haTorah. Meaning, what reality exists min haTorah? What's the absolute reality, the revealed reality on Tesvav Nisan? Only the first level of Gul. That's Torah Shabbat. Min haTorah, what do? You eat 3 matzahs. Is anything called wine? Min haTorah? Why should there be wine? Min haTorah. There's no 4th level isn't here. It doesn't exist. Right? It's going to, but not yet. So what's here now? Matzah. What mihai time is nar achilas matzah min haTorah. By Yetzias Mitzrayim, because by Yetzias Mitzrayim, Leil Pesach on the 15th of Nisan is befeil geven in actuality blois di geula milamayla, only the geula from above, the erste drei inyanim, the first 3 levels. The 4th level is not revealed yet. Now we're going to see where Torah Shabbat Peh plays its part in there. But on a deeper level, the Rebbe can say, says, as it is da a sheiches penimis zwischen matzah v'keises, there is a more inner connection between matzah and the cups of wine, yayin, both of them, und die misparim, gimel and daled, and their numbers, 3 and 4. Der chiluk zwischen dem misparim, gimel and daled is move on from Maimer Chazal benagel the oisius gimel and daled. The Rebbe is going to explain this on 2 different levels. First, the oisius gimel and daled, because the number gimel is, the number 3 is gimel and the number 4 is daled. So what's gimel daled? So the famous Gemara in Shabbos that discusses the Aleph base. So Aleph base is aluf bina, teach understanding. What's gimel daled? So gimel daled is gimel dalim. Let's see. Der Chiluk zwischen den Misparim Gimel and Daled is moving from Maimer Chazal. It's understood from the Gemara and Shabbos. You can see the bottom of Kuf Daled. Benegea the Oisius Gimel, that the letters Gimel Daled. That's how they're written out, right? And what are Gimel Daled? So the Gemara says Gimel Dalim, the one who gives to the poor. Das heißt, as Gimel is merames ifin Goimel. Gimel hints at the giver, Goimel, the Noisen, and Daled ifin Dal. And Daled hints at the notion of the Dal, the poverty-stricken one, who's the Makabel, who's the receiver. So what do Chazal say? The Gimel and Daled, the Gimel and Daled, the Gimel is facing the Daled, right? The Gimel is giving to the Daled. The Daled is turned away the other way, right? But the Daled has his hand out in the back, ready to accept from the Gimel. So the Gimel Dalim. So what's Gimel? Gimel is the Mashpia. Daled is the Makabel. What's Matzah? Matzah is Geula mitzad the Mashpia, mitzad the Kadosh Baruch Hu, giving us. What's Daled? What's the fourth level? The fourth level is you and I receiving it. So receiving the Geula, internalizing the Geula, that's the fourth level. So mitzad Gimel Daled, we see this level of Mashpia and Makabel. That's going to be understood even more in the next paragraph. That 3 and 4 is really needing Mashpia and Makabel. And that we saw when we learned V'yadaita. V'yadaita Moscow, we saw that very clearly. So on a pneumistic level, the union of the union of the Mashpia is Gimel. In the union of the Makabel is Dalet. That's also, the Rebbe doesn't say it here, but that's also Yud, K, Vav, and K. 3 different levels of Hashpah in Elokus, Yud and K and Vav. Vav, of course, is drawing it down, drawing the Yud and the K down to a lower level, and then there's the K Tata, the lower level K, which is Malchus, which is the receptacle, the Makabel, of the Or of Zah. The Or of Zah is, of course, Nimshach from Yud and K, which is Chacham and Bina. Right, so the Rebbe is going to say something closer to that now. When das wird euch herausgebracht in die Misparim Gimel and Dalet. This is also brought out in the numbers Gimel and Dalet, which is really what we're more interested in because it's 3 matzahs and 4 cups of wine, right? It happens to also be Gimel and Dalet, but it's 3 and 4. A hashpah, that which comes from above, wie sie steht noch in der Mashpia, while it's still expressed in the Mashpia, the Neusen, besteht sie von 3 Beginners. There's 3 aspects of the Hashpah as it's in the Mashpia. We'll talk about, the Rebbe doesn't talk about that here, we'll talk about it. All right? B'shas di Hashpah kumt shoinen zu Makabel, and once the Hashpah comes already to the Makabel, kumt zu a ferter bechina. Then a 4th level is revealed, and again that's hinted at in Yud K Vav, and then K. Mitzad the Eibishter Lamaila. So there's Yud and K and Vav, 3 different levels of Or that are nimshach into the Makabel, which is Malchus. There's Shetach Ukli Makabel, the area and vessel of the Makabel, welch is freer given behelem in the Hashpah, which is hidden in the Hashpah, meaning it's not in a state of revelation. It's all about that ultimately. It's all about the Makabel, but the Makabel's not as long as the Hashpah is in the realm of the Mashpia, so the Makabel is hidden. Then it comes into a state of revelation from the Mashpia to the Makabel. So it comes into a state of revelation and there's a Makabel, the Seder. But now the whole idea is to get it to the Makabel. In the Mashpia, what's the Mashpia thinking about? Being Mashpia. Therefore, the Mashpia is thinking about bringing this into the state of the Makabel, but that's all hidden in the Mashpia. So in general, there are 3 different levels. We'll skip the next paragraph just because of time. We want to make sure we finish this. In Mashpia and Makabel, it's explained in Chassidus in a number of different places. There's 2 different ways you can explain the level of 3 in the Mashpia, right? Simply, the Mashpia understands the idea itself. Right? That's level 1. That can be level 2 in another explanation, but we'll do the simplest. In level, the first reality in the Mashpia is understanding the idea itself. If he doesn't understand the idea, obviously he can't be a Mashpia, he can't give it over. That's the first level of the Mashpia. The second level in the Mashpia is the preparation of the idea to be given over to the student. Right? Because the mashpia has to understand the idea, but then the mashpia also has to prepare that idea to be given over to the student, because the idea as it resonates in the seichel of the mashpia is a different idea. It's the same idea, but it's in slightly different form than it's going to be when he's mashpia that to the student. This is all via daita maska. And then there's the actual hashpah. Then the mashpia gives that over to the student. You can also explain the reality before the mashpia gives it over to the student in terms of not so much the mashpia understanding the idea being state one and then preparing the idea state two, but the potential of the mashpia to understand the idea, that's state one, the understanding of the idea, that's state two, and then drawing the idea down to the makabel, that's state three. That's more closely connected to Yud, K, and Vav. Yud is the ability of the mashpia to understand. K is the understanding of the mashpia, and the Vav is drawing that level from above down below. Okay, but in terms of the mashpia and the makabel, we generally relate to it as the mashpia understanding the idea, the mashpia preparing the idea for hashpah, because the mashpia can't be a mashpia unless he understands the idea. Right? Then they're preparing it for hashpah. And then, which is the second level of the mashpia understanding the idea. First, the mashpia understands the idea of himself. Then he tries to understand this idea mitzad its transmission to the student. What's he going to transmit to the student? How is he going to form this idea so that the student can understand it? And then he's mashpia to the student. Those are the three levels in the mashpia itself. And the fourth level is the makabel. So there we see very, very clearly in Pnimius that the Indian of mashpia is 3 and the makabel is 4. So therefore, mitzad HaKadosh Baruch Hu the mashpia, there's a mitzvah called matzah, and that's 3 matzahs, which relate to the 3 different levels of the mashpia in the process. And then there's the 4th level, which is revealed by the makabel becoming a makabel. The makabel can be a makabel who's passive. So all he's allowing is the mashpia to be a mashpia, but he's not really being mashpia because there's no makabel yet. Okay, he's makabel, he's sitting in the room, but he doesn't understand it yet. Okay, and then there's the internalization of the ideas, so the mashpia really becomes a mashpia, but the makabel becomes a makabel, but that depends on the makabel doing the work to become a makabel. That's the 4th level. Right. Just derech agav parenthetically, so this came up earlier. One of the ideas that came up in Sheva Brachas, and I think I mentioned it to you. Just my son mentioned it that when he was a bacher, so there were a bunch of bachrim who were about to become chasonim, and they were for bringing with their mashpia. And I believe it was Rav Eifer my Dovna, because I asked my kids who was it. It was Rav Eifer, and it makes sense in terms of what he said. So Rav Eifer said that before you walk into the house every day, you have to eat a rogalach. You remember that idea? You have to eat a rogalach. Why? Because he said 2 reasons. First is you can't walk into the house hungry, because you'll be miserable, so don't do that. And you have to walk into the house happy, so you just ate a rogalach. It was good, so you have to walk into the house happy. So every day before you walk home, before you enter into the house, in the stairway, in the yard, wherever you eat it, in the car, before you leave the car, eat a ragala, so you won't be hungry, and you'll be basimcha.
You think that's why Noam insisted on it having a ragala?
I think that's why we've decided to let it happen, because we really just want to get everybody married. That's what So, I said this over to, there's a fellow who davens in our shul who's just a very, very fascinating person. He's a PhD in psychology and is what do they call it? And he works in that. He has patients. He's a, what do you call it? Anyway. No, he's a psychologist. He's not a psychiatrist. He's not into the drugs part of it. He's into the therapist. He's into the therapy part of it. Right? So he deals with severely psychotic people. I mean, that's basically what most of his practice is. So he's just a very interesting guy. He did his PhD on the Rebbe Rashab.
Oh.
He did his PhD in psychology on the Rebbe Rashab. And they loved it. And they were really interested in what he had to say. And there's a lot of so-called psychology in there, right? How do humans work, and what are midas, and what's seichel, and what's midas, right? So he's just a fascinating. He knows a ton of Chassidus. He's a really interesting guy. I knew he would enjoy this idea. So I said it over to him, and he had such an interesting insight to it, the psychologist. He said, oh, so what do you see? And this is what we're learning here also. So what do you see? That the mashpia, in order to be mashpia, has to take care of himself so he can be mashpia properly. He has to eat the rugala. He has to take care of himself. Make sure that he's in good shape. Why? Not because he's into himself. He's not into himself, but he has to be a mashpia. In order to be a mashpia, he has to be healthy. Right? He has to take care of himself. He has to not be hungry and not be miserable. And he has to make sure that he's in working order. Why? Not mitzad himself. Mitzad the fact that he has a job. What's his job? He has to be a mashpia. So the mashpia has to take care of himself first in order to be a mashpia. Which is such an interesting take on the whole thing. True. Certainly in seichel. So if the teacher doesn't learn anything, he can't teach, right? So obviously the teacher has to sit and understand anything. Rav Yol, actually, it's interesting because Rav Yol used to talk about this. That people who teach Chassidus have to learn one mimer that they don't teach. Because what happens when you teach? So every time you open up a mimer, you learn the mimer. Ooh, this is an interesting mimer to teach. And you learn it as a teacher. Don't learn it. He said, Rav Yol was the ultimate teacher. He taught everything, right? So Rav Yol said, no, there has to be a mimer that you're learning just because you're a chassid learning a mimer, not because you're going to give it to anybody, not because you're going to teach it. No, you have to learn a mimer mitzad learning a mimer, not mitzad teaching a mimer. Teaching a mimer, that's one thing you do. But learning a mimer, you have to learn a mimer, just learn a mimer. And that's very, very hard for teachers to do because as soon as teachers see something that's interesting, ooh, this would be an interesting thing to teach. Rav said, no, there has to be one mimer that you're learning not to teach. You're learning to learn a mimer. But the Indian in the mashpia is to prepare himself to be mashpia. And so there's 3 different levels in that preparation. And by the husband, it was one thing, he just has to eat a rugala. It's very easy. But in ashpa, so there's 3 different levels of the mashpia, and then the 4th level is the makabel. Okay, skip the brackets. Das is euch einer from the biurim. Now the Rebbe says something absolutely astounding. The mashpia is gimel. The makabel is daled. Something you might have wondered about if you're a curious sort. Das is euch einer from the biurim. This is also one of the explanations in the chiluk, in the difference zwischen the aves and the imahis, between the aves and the imahis. Gimel aves. Dalet imahis. Why are there 4 mothers? Why aren't there 3?
Wow.
Oh, because what's Ima? Ima's the makabel. What's Abba? Abba's the mashpia. Wow. So mitzad the mashpia, there's 3. Mitzad the makabel, there's 4. So there's a 4th level that's revealed in Ima. Because Beseder, of course there are 4 imahis. How can there not be 4 imahis? Well, but why are there 4 imahis? I don't understand. Right? Why shouldn't there be 3? There's 3 avers, so there's 3 imahis. No. Because the whole Inyan in Ima is the revelation of the 4th level. So that's revealed in the 4 imahis. They're Tayar Av and Aim. This description, Av and Aim, what's that relevant to? It's different than man and wife, a husband and wife, man and woman. Av and Aim is dafka shayach to children. It's verbunden mit their hashpa. Shayach to their hashpa, having children. They love this banim ubanis, giving birth to children. And from the chilukim zwischen sie, from the differences in between them, in their hashpa, in this whole Indian of hashpa is in tipas hashpa sa'av, in the drop of the abba, zayin de evari havlad klulim behelim gadol. Everything's there behelim. It's all there. It's all behelim. It's all concealed. Where does it come into a state of revelation? Ima. Oh, but the aim, what does Ima do? Ima is the mekabelis. She receives the little drop. And she's metziyose. She takes that out, lidei gilu, into a state of revelation, b'leidosa vlad sholem, through giving birth to a complete vlad. She takes that potential and actualizes that potential ad kedei kach, that there's an actual child from that potential child. Mitzad dem av, in terms of the av, their mashpia, who's the one who's giving, is noch der davar hamushpa. So this reality that is coming into being, which is their vlad, nit in a tzir galui, is not in a revealed state. Where does it come into gilui? Their gilui hashpa b'feil mamish. The revelation of the hashpa and the actual hashpa itself, b'kliya makabel, is durch demei. That's ima. So ima is the one who brings out the revelation of that with the koyach that Abba has. Abba has the koyach l'hoylid, but it's completely concealed. Ima is the one that brings that koyach into pale, brings that koyach into actuality. So what? So that's the fourth level. The level of mashpia, we said, are 3. And the level of makabel is 4. The fourth level that reveals all of the koyach in the 3. There's no fourth without the 3, which will help us understand why there's 4 cups of wine, not 1. Okay, but we still don't understand why it should be in Pesach and not Shavuos. Und therefore seien der Gimel Avos, therefore they're Gimel Avos. While the hashpa, wie sie is mitzad, when it's still relative to, und in literally, the mashpia, Avos, is ausgestellt in 3 beginners, therefore it's expressed in 3 different levels. Because the mashpia is shaykh to 3. Mashein came the Immerse. That's not the case of the Immerse. There's dafka 4 Immerse. Why are there 4 Immerse? Because the whole inyan of Ima is the revelation of the 4th level. Bechinas makabel, zaynim b'mispar dalet. That's what Ima is all about. Ima is all about that 4th level. Okay, there's 2 things we have to understand. So first of all, we understand to a certain degree why it is that there's a mitzvah deraisa to eat matzah on Pesach. The mitzvah deraisa is shaykh to the revealed reality on Pesach. And what's the revealed reality on Pesach? That it's all mitzvah the mashpia. There's matzah, which has no tam, and there's 3 of them because it's shaykh to the mashpia, not the makabel yet. Right, the 4th level, so the wine is the revelation of the 4th level, and wine's all about the revelation of it, the internalization of it. But we don't understand why that's not happening on Shavuos and why that's happening on Pesach. Right, now, interesting enough, that's a din d'Rabbanan. Al-Derech says, Nagetzum Yitzias Mitzrayim, so too relative to Yitzias Mitzrayim. In the Geula from Mitzrayim, Vizi is Mekoman Milamayla, that is coming from above, is Geven Kolul. Oh, we're now going to understand it. Right, is kalul, incorporated b'koyach, in potential, the ganze geula b'shleimusa. The whole geula in its fullest expression is contained in Yetzias Mitzrayim, but it's contained there only b'koyach, only in a potential state, like Abba. Abba is shaykh to Hilodah, but only in this potential state. Abba can't be meilid without Ima bringing that koyach hayloda that exists in Abba into a state of revelation through Ima. So to Mitzrayim, Yitzias Mitzrayim, mitzad Abba, mitzad the Mashpia, mitzad Lamaila. What's there? Everything's there. It just has to be brought into a state of revelation. How is it brought into a state of revelation? By Ima. So now what's that? In Aveda, what's that? That's you and I internalizing the Geula. So when did we internalize the Geula? So relative to you and I, when did we internalize the Geula? That was by Matan Torah. But mitzad the Geula itself, when was all of the power of Geula revealed? Mitzad the Geula itself, Pesach. It wasn't revealed here, but it was all there, B'kayach, it was all there potentially. And our Aveda is all about revealing that potential and internalizing it to bring about the latest of Vlad, the actual, the consciousness of Geula in the Yid. But it's all there by Yetzias Mitzrayim. Euch die Geula, wie sie ist gekommen danach lidei Gilui befehl bei Matan Torah. Also that level of Geula that's going to come afterwards to a state of revelation and actuality by Matan Torah, that state of Geula exists already, b'koyach, in a potential state by Yetzias Mitzrayim. What am I internalizing? I'm internalizing what's already there. Is there anything new when the makabel's makabel, the seichel of the Rav, is there anything new in the seichel of the Rav? No, it was all there. It was all there in the Rav. It's just now coming to a state of gilui in the makabel. But in the Rav, it was all there. Right? It's true. It's hidden in the Rav because it hasn't come out of the Rav into the Talmud, Beseder, but it's still there. Says Narvos Dart, it's only that there, by Matan Torah, is this Be'elim. I'm sorry, by Mitzrayim. By Mitzrayim, over there, it's still hidden. It's all there, it's just in a state of hiddenness. Just like the Koyach Hayloda. The Abba has the Koyach of Hayloda. But it's completely hidden in Abba. It's revealed in Ima. Oh, so too by Yitzias Mitzrayim. What's there? A complete and total geula. It hasn't come into a state of revelation yet. Why not? Because you and I haven't revealed it down here. But mitzad the geula itself, so to speak, mitzad true reality, what's there? Geula in all its glory. Okay, so let's see how that relates to what we were trying to understand. Und das ist euch von den Chilukim zwischen Matz und Yain. And this is also from the differences of Matz and Yain. The Rebbe says here something just precious amazing. There's Zecher legeula lechedus. The act that you and I do, Torah, to remember geula and chedus, mitzad Torah shebechsav. Mitzad Torah shebechsav, because Rabbanon's also Torah, it's just Torah shebal peh. Mitzad Torah shebechsav. What's written in Torah shebechsav? Matzah. What's Torah shebechsav? What do Chazal say? Musar avicha v'teiras imecha. Wow. What's Musar avicha? That's Torah shebechsav. What's teiras imecha? That's Torah shebal peh. So mitzad Abba, what's revealed? 3 levels. That's Abba. Abba's the mashpia. Mitzad the Torah. It's unbelievable what the Rebbe is saying here. Mitzad Abba. There's 3 levels revealed. What's that? Torah shebechsav is Musar avicha. Al titesh, right? What's the pasuk? No. Yeah. What's the pasuk? Oh my goodness. Right? Don't the down Musar al titesh teres imecha, right?
Not the second.
What?
Not the second?
Yeah. But what's before Musar Avicha? No. So what does Shlomo Melech say? Shlomo Melech talks about Musar Avicha and Teres Imecha. What's Musar Avicha? Chazal say Torah shebechsav. What's Teres Imecha? Torah shebal peh. Oh, so what does Torah shebechsav reveal? Matzah. What's matzah? 3. It's at the mashpia. What does Torah shebal peh reveal? 4. What's that? 4 cups of wine, which is a din d'Rabbanan. It's unbelievable. Musar avicha mashpia is madgish the geula v'dosas mitzad HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's emphasizing the geula as it is mitzad HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the mashpia. Musar avicha, Torah shebechsav, that's the Eibishter's Torah. And so what? So there's 2 things. Und der Riber, therefore, is das Aleph al yidei chilas matzah. We eat matzah. Why specifically matzah? How does matzah relate to this? Rabbi's taught us already. What is it about matzah that's shaykh to this? Why?
It's the 3 levels that are coming from.
True. So matzah's 3, but why matzah? What you're saying is true. It's not explaining why dafka matzah. The emphasis here is on the matzah of it, not the 3 of it.
Because our avodah hasn't.
And how is that shaykh to matzah? What you're saying is true, but how is that shaykh to matzah? What did the Rebbe say? It's at the end of last year. We the end of yesterday's year, and we went over it again at the beginning of today's year before we saw yayin. What's the difference between matzah and yayin?
It has no taste.
Taste. There's no taste. What does the taste represent? My internal connection to it. There's no taste. I have no geschmack. It's not me. Right? Okay. Matzah is all about bittul. Right? There's no me. No taste. There's no internalization. So aleph, it's matzah. It's something that has no taste. Un base. Misper from Gimel. There's dafka 3 of them. Why are there 3 of them? Because it's shaykh to the mashpia. Valvidi hashpa. While this hashpa is kolul, is still incorporated in mashpia. So it's expressed in dry. So 3 matzahs. Matzah, because matzah has no taste, so matzah represents that level of geula that hasn't been internalized, hasn't become part of my gishmak. Right? And why 3? Because that's when reality is still shaykh to the mashpia. It hasn't been revealed in the makabel yet. The chachomim, along come Chazal, Torah Bal Peh. What's Torah Bal Peh? It reveals what's really going on in Torah B'chsav. Reveals that which is hidden in Torah B'chsav. So what's happening on Pesach? The 4th level is there. It's just not in a state of revelation. And what do Chazal do? Chazal reveal that 4th level. So then when do you do? First of all, there have to be 4. Because the 4 isn't just the 4th level. It's the elevation and revelation of all that exists in the 3. So there have to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's not 1 Ima. There's 4 Imas. Right? Because Ima is the revelation of everything that exists in Gimel Aves, but revealing it on the 4th level. So if there have to be 4 cups of wine, and when do you drink those 4 cups of wine? Dafka Pesach, because it's all there on Pesach. And who reveals that? Torah Bal Peh reveals that, because Torah Bal Peh is the revelation of what's hidden in Torah B'chsav. So mitzat Torah B'chsav, the true gul is hidden. So you eat 3 matzahs, because the mashpia is there, but there's no makabel yet. But mitzat Torah Bal Peh is never seder, but it's all b'kayach, and so there is a makabel. And once we bring about the din d'rabbanan, is all about the reality of the revelation of what's hidden in Torah B'chsav, the 4th level, the makabel. The chachamim Torah Bal Peh Torahs imecho, which is the makabel, haben meisif given. They added masakin given, and they established. As their zecher legeula v'cheres, the act that we do to remember geula v'cheres, must euch also sein be in an oifen, in such a way as menzel der herren, that a person is sensitive to it. He hears it, but he is sensitive. Wie die geula is mitzad makabel, that the geula is also mitzad the makabel eden. Meaning, what's the panemius of Pesach? The panemius of Pesach isn't simply to celebrate the level of geula that comes from above. The panemius of Pesach is to internalize that and to realize that this geula is also mitzad me, not just mitzad the Eibishter. Where's that? Where do you see that? The mitzvah the Rabbanan. Chazal reveal that to us by telling us to drink 4 cups of wine. Dafka on Pesach, not on Shavuos. Yes, it's going to come into a state of absolute revelation in Shavuos, but it's already there now, and I have to be sensitive to that.
Rabbi,
Mm-hmm.
does the idea that the Yeshiva Mitzrayim is really for us to, the intent is really for us to receive the Torah? Does that play a role?
Absolutely, 100%. That's the panemius of it all, 100%. And that Chazal came and revealed that. Because that's what Torah Bal Peh does.
I have a question for after class, but I was wondering, so the mashpia is 3 and the receiver is 4. So how is it that you're able to give, the receiver is more than the giver? Surely you
Not
give.
more. Just reveals what's in the mashpia.
Okay.
It's true that he reveals something that the mashpia might not reveal in him. He allows the mashpia to reveal in himself something the mashpia might not be able to reveal. You understand something you teach better than something you learn. That's true. Okay. So the mashpia brings back, but that's all a function of the makabel brings that about in the mashpia. So mitamida yosimikulam, as I'll say, for my students more than anybody. Okay, so that's true. But it's not that you're adding something to mashpia, you're just revealing in a more powerful way what was there. That's exactly what the Rebbe is saying here. What's the makabel doing? What's Torah Bal Peh doing? Revealing the panemius of Pesach. What's the panemius of Pesach? The panemius of Pesach is that we're nigel gevorn. That's the panemius of Pesach. Not that the Eibishter is redeeming us, but that we're redeemed. But that's not. But you don't see that in Torah B'chsav. Why not? Because Torah B'chsav is dealing with the facts on the ground. right? With the reality as it's revealed. What does Torah Shabbat Peh reveal? The potential that was hidden. What's the potential that was hidden? That we can be nigul divine, even on Pesach. How? Drink 4 cups of wine. Right? Internalize it all. But that's a din d'Rabbanan. Underiber, and therefore, so then there's going to be 2 things. Kumt sin aleph shtiyas yayin. First of all, it's going to be I'm going to drink wine. Why? Vos hatatam, has a taste, so internalize it. And how many cups? Una mispar from daladavka, and there's 4 cups. Well, so now we understand. What was our question at the beginning of the Sikha? What was the Mordechai's question? If matzah is deraisa, and there's arba l'shonis of geula deraisa, so then why don't we eat 4 matzahs? Why don't we do the din deraisa that relates to the 4 l'shonis of geula? So now the Rebbe has explained that. Mikol tzdadim. First of all, mitzvah the 4 l'shonis of geula, the 4th languages, Mishach to Yitzias Mitzrayim, Mishach to Matan Torah. And the inyan of matzah is dafka shayach to the level of 3, not 4. The level in which it's all shayach to the mashpia, not in the makabel. So 4 matzahs is it's absolutely absurd if I understand what matzah is all about. Okay, there's a big. No, we'll stop there. We'll do Zion tomorrow and we'll finish up tomorrow.
That's pretty amazing analysis.
To get that, because the Rebbe now got that. The next little piece is it's a different idea. It's based on all this. It's a completely different idea in the Indian of eating matzah, because there is an interesting anomaly in matzah. It has no taste, but it has to have a taste of matzah. Can't have another taste. Matzah shira is also. Tzad echad matzah has no taste. Tzad sheni, it has to have a taste of matzah. If you add fruit juice to matzah, it's not matzah. So the non-taste is its taste. And that's brought, the Rebbe explained that it's brought lahaloch. So I was going to explain that in Panemius.
Well, how about the egg matzah with chocolate covering?
That's right. That you can't be eating matzah with that. There you go. It's good for Easter. You can make an Easter bunny. You can make a little Easter bunny out of the egg matzahs with chocolate. But you can't be Mekayim the mitzvah of the Chilas matzah, which is really taka very interesting. So what does that represent? Right? So we'll see. In a Veda, that's going to be the Gishmak from Kabbalah Soul.
It's pretty amazing.
The Kabbalah Soul has no taste. It has to have a taste of Kabbalah Soul. And what's that taste? That's the Gishmak that the Yid gets from Kabbalah Soul. The Gishmak he gets from doing what the Eibishter wants, because the Eibishter wants it. Okay, we'll see that tomorrow. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
It's an amazing scene. Anyway, I go that this is in, again, as I brought mine yesterday, which is 1 volume. This is volume 1. There's a volume 2, which is thicker. This is the regular God in the beginning, like we saw yesterday. And then at the end, that's nice. They put in the Lakute Tamim and Hagim here also, which is very nice. Right? And then there's at the Haggadah Shapesik Biurim and Perushim. Perushim with Biurim. Right? So then this is all just Sichas on Haggadah.
Wow.
And then there's a second volume that's thicker than this, which is just more. I don't know exactly how they divided it up, like why it's divided up the way it is. But in that 1 volume that I brought yesterday, I showed the old one, there was 1 volume, so also there was this distinction between this part and then another part. It's just more, it looks like more of the same, but... Okay, so this also, but it has an index, and you can see what topics the Rebbe is discussing in the Sichas. Again, these are the Sichas generally, not always, generally Sichas that the Rebbe said During Pesach, the Rebbe would bring after the second Seder, there would be a dry for bringing, and the Rebbe would dry because you couldn't eat or drink after Afikonim. And the Rebbe would bring for an hour or two on different inyonim in the Haggadah. For people who weren't in the Rebbe's Seder. It's the Bachrim were in the Rebbe's Seder, but no one else was. The Bachrim used to make their own Seder very quickly, and then they'd run up to the previous Rebbe's apartment, and they would crowd in there and listen to the Rebbe, watch the Rebbe make Seder. So that was until Tafshin Lamed. There was one year that didn't happen because they missed one Seder. I think it was the second Seder in Tafshin Chavtes. It didn't happen because I think that's when the Bachrim pushed and shoved a little and spilled some wine on the table. So the powers that be, not the Rebbe, the powers that be were upset. So no, it might have been. Because I remember Fitchi Eifin was there. They I remember. It was the second Seder Tafshin Chavtes. So then that Seder they weren't there. The second Seder, then Tafshin Lamed. So not everybody was allowed. Only special Bachrim were allowed because they didn't want to be so crowded. So all the other Bachrim didn't know what to do. I heard this story from someone who was there. Fitchi Eifin, Rabbi Eifin was there. So the other Bachrim didn't, he was inside. So the other Bachrim didn't know what to do. So they made a quick Seder. They decided they'll make a quick Seder and they'll go upstairs and they'll do what they always did and they'll see what happens. Maybe they can get into the Rebbe's room. There's the Frierdiker Rebbe's room. It's upstairs and something. So they were all hanging out at the door trying to hear words from what was going on inside. And when they came with Keishel Eliyahu and the women opened the door, so all these Bachrim are standing there like this. It's all, the whole hallway is packed with Bachrim. And Rabbi Eifin was standing behind the Rebbe, and he saw the Rebbe look over to the Bachrim and go, "Come in, fast, quick, just come in." So the Rebbe was very upset that they didn't let the Bachrim in. But so the Rebbe, that year actually, the Rebbe made an extra for bringing during Pesach because he said there was a Pesach Seder lost. One Seder where the Bachrim could be, so the Rebbe made an extra for bringing. But the Rebbe used to forbring second night for everybody, not just the Bachrim. So people would finish their Seder and then go to 770 and listen for an hour or two. Maybe would forbring. So a lot of this is from that. Or, this happens to be a sikha from Achron Shel Pesach, Tavshin Men Beis. So, the Sudas Mashiach. There's just no end. No end. We're supposed to finish it all, right? Isn't that what we learned?